My name is Joe Reynolds. I'm the fire marshal in North Kansas City. Like all the rest of the guys have said, we're trying really hard to give you guys one answer to your questions so that you don't go different places and get 5 different answers or 10 different answers. So please bear with us, ask questions. We'll try to get things figured out. So hopefully this is going to help all the way around.
My name is Mike Casey. I'm the Assistant Fire Marshal for Oklahoma Park Fire Department. Been with the fire department now 25 years, and appreciate you guys coming out today. And glad to be on the committee.
All right, just so we can get a feel for who's all in here, because I know we've got some food truck owners, we've got some fire departments here, and I think we have some service technicians from different agencies here. So let's start back here in the corner and just work our way from the back to the front. And just tell us who you are and who you're with, and if you're a food truck vendor, what the name of your company is and what your specialty is, and whether or not you brought samples.
Dean Cole, Deputy Chief, Southern Platte Fire Protection District in southern part of Platte County on the Missouri side.
Tom Keelan, Assistant Fire Marshal of Kansas City, Missouri.
Adrian Bermudez, food trucker, Indian Scotland.
Tracy Vader, Fire Prevention Officer with Shawnee.
Mark Lawson, Fire Marshal, City of Olathe.
Matt Bonner, Fire Prevention Officer, City of Shawnee.
Tim Wynick, Captain of Olathe Fire Department.
Derek Llewellyn, Fire Marshal, CJC Fire, which is Blue Springs, Green Valley, Eastern Jackson County.
Rachel Hubachek, food trucker, RNA, East Streetery.
Ashley Chapman, I'm with her.
Rich Babcock from Ambrosia Catering and Food Truck.
Rob Richway, OK Wagon.
Corey Shelp with Casual Foodie.
Dan Shire, 451 Protection and Service Provider.
Okay.
Chris King, Lawrence Fire Marshal.
Ed Morin, Food Truck Central.
Shauna Shane, KC Concoction.
John Tarpinski, Prevention Specialist here in the city of Lenexa.
Nate Prim, Nick D. So Cute. Best barbecue so cute you ever had. If you see me coming, tell me that sauce. 10% off.
10% off.
Ramona Smith, Mickey D's.
Rick Byfield, Johnson Controls Fire, Ansel Distributor.
Sean Myron Powell, food truck Fit Stop Catering, specializes in smoked meats, and do it all.
Seth Hanselman, the milk truck based out of Malaysia.
Frank Eric, City of Leawood Fire Department, Fire Marshal as well.
You want to introduce yourself since she skipped you?
I'm Myron.
My wife does that to me all the time too. Just get to move on. So go back.
Rochelle Hole, City of Lenexa, business license.
Dylan Smith, Fire Inspector, City of Topeka. We're just down here kind of doing the same thing, wanting to get on the same page, and so we can get a common answer for y'all.
Chad Wolfhouse, Topeka Fire Inspector.
Adam Appleton, Big Fire Inspector.
Tom Robson, Big Fire Inspector.
Patrick Gossern, I'm Cajun Nation KC Food Truck.
Mike Bradbury, the Funnel Cake Truck.
Scott Getz, Papa Scott's Street Eats.
Bijani Mommy with the Hy-Vee Food Truck.
Rich Grasco's Food Truck and Catering. Adam Moore. Isaiah Andrade, Food Truck, Fayetteville.
Eric Jensen, the Big Pig.
Rich Power, Distribution Barbecue, Jeff Morstock for a Wagon Food Truck.
Jason Whitman, West Creations Food Truck.
Haley Madonna, Kona Ice.
Eric Wright, Kona Ice.
Kyle Schumann, Black County Health Department.
Bailey Moore, Black County.
Frank and Melanie Garriger with Garriger's Orchard.
Dale Grafke with Keller Fire and Safety.
Anita, Black Belt Barbecue, Leavenworth.
Colin Nelson, owner Black Belt Barbecue, Leavenworth. Carl Newton, News and D. Kitson.
Brandon, Jazzy D's.
Mary Green, Maribel's Food Truck.
Darla McGonigal, Russell Stover's Candy's Food Truck, and Melanie Martin is Central. If I would have known, I would have loaded it up. Lori Whitten with Whitten Professional Food Truck.
Mike Tulane, General Manager, Fire 1E.
Clark Richardson, Fire Prevention Officer.
Joe Ragsdale, Kansas City, Missouri Fire Inspector.
Joe Ireland, Craven, Kansas City. Tony Portal,
Lori Lee, Mr. Peter.
Ezra Eno in KCPD.
Dallas, KCPD.
Well, Peters, I just been trying to figure out what I need to put in.
You come to a good place.
Red Hot, the next part.
Willie Jordan, Keller Fire.
Mark Carter, Keller Fire Safety. Richard King, the Kansas Department of Agriculture, is responsible for the district manager, and Will Johnson, the one in the county.
Welcome all of you for being here today. Some of the industries like Keller, 451 will probably be asking you a few questions during this process. So, again, today, feel free to speak up anytime you want. We've got a couple slides in here we're just going to touch on, but if you want to elaborate more than that. Okay, any questions before we get started? All right. So the food truck, the whole reason for this, and this is some of the information that's on that sheet that you had, we're looking to, we wanted to have a presentation to help the authorities having jurisdictions, all the fire departments, and the food truck owner-operators work through this process together on what the regulations are. The International Fire Code addresses the food trucks for the first time in 18. So before this, there was really no regulation at all on the food trucks. Not that, we're trying to regulate anybody, but we want to make sure that it's safe. And because of this, when they threw it out there, they threw out a bunch of information, and there's a lot of stuff in there that's really good, but then it's missing a lot of things too. NFPA, is everybody familiar with NFPA, National Fire Protection Association? They also create codes and standards just like the International Fire Code does. They have standards that also tie into food trucks. Jurisdictions like Lenexa, Overland Park, North Kansas City, Topeka, we adopt different codes. Usually it's what we call the International Fire Code is the fire code that we'll adopt. Some jurisdictions may adopt the NFPA standard, some may not. Anytime the NFPA standard is addressed in the adoption of the International Fire Code, if it talks about a specific code or references it, then that's automatically adopted, that portion of it's automatically adopted. So there are some things in NFPA that we do get to enforce, but there's a lot of things in NFPA that if our jurisdiction doesn't adopt that entire section of that code for food trucks, for instance, we can't enforce some of the things that are out there unless it's done by adoption. So just kind of wanted to throw that out there. So what we're going to be covering is the stuff that's required by the International Fire Code, and then we're going to talk about some of the things the National Fire Protection Agency or Association, NFPA, also has out there. But those are going to be, from most of us, are going to be recommendations. There may be a few jurisdictions in the Kansas City area that have adopted those, but those are going to be based on that jurisdiction's requirement. So unfortunately, we can't say that that sheet that we gave you is a get out of jail free, the answers to your final test or your final exam. It's not everything, it's not all inclusive, because each city, even though they adopt the code, they do have the ability to adopt the NFPA standards, and they do have the ability to have their own local jurisdiction or local amendments added to it. So that's why we're going to say, this is pretty much a blanket, covers everything, but there are other areas that may have to be addressed with local jurisdictions. So we'll try and talk through that a little bit more as we go on. We do show some sections of the code. We've got some pictures in here because everybody likes pictures. This is a death by PowerPoint presentation. Okay, so hopefully we can get through it in about an hour, a little over an hour. I think the last time we did it was an hour and a half. We did have a couple of the food truck vendors meet with us about a month ago. We went through this, presented it to them, just to kind of get some feedback to see if we were even on the right track, and I think we did a pretty good job.
Yep.
From what we tried to do. So the checklist that you got, again, that's what most of the jurisdictions will be using. Again, there may be little changes and little amendments or different things that jurisdictions do, but ultimately that's the basis of what we're going to be looking at. I think Chief Sands talked about with some of you that there's a sticker that we'll be providing, and part of this was so that if you get your inspection in Kansas City, Missouri, who's represented here today, they do all their inspections in March.
Yes.
They do all their food truck inspections in March with their health department. So once you get the sticker from them and you come to Lenexa and you have that sticker, we're not going to go, okay, we have to go through the whole checklist again. we may say, we want to do a quick walkthrough just to make sure there's no changes, no modifications, no things that, since their inspection, might have changed to where we want to make sure it's still safe, but we're not going to go through that entire checklist again. You've already got that inspection from them, and you shouldn't have to have it from us again. We just want to make sure it's safe for our event and that you've got whatever you're supposed to have for us, and we'll step out of your way and let you do your job. So, let's see. Again, due to the nature of the business, this is not an all-inclusive checklist that you've got. And unfortunately, I don't know that after sitting on this committee for 9 months, almost a year, I don't think we could have come to an all-inclusive checklist based on everybody. All right, so again, we are not the food truck police. We're here to do a basic fire safety inspection. Okay, so we're not, if there's serious life safety issues, we may be more of a policing agent where we're going to have to say, hey, you have to fix this before you can operate in our city, or fix this before we can give you that sticker. But we'll work through the inspections with you on that. Kansas and Missouri health requirements. We are not here to preach about the health requirements. I don't know what temperature the refrigerator has to be. I don't know how much ice you have to have or how much fresh water. That's not any of the stuff we regulate or we want to get involved in. Kansas Department of Ag will probably have questions that they want answered for that. We did put the links on this, and it's kind of hard to see because that was the only color I could get to actually work. But I did. So if you're, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're running a food truck in the state of Kansas, you have to have, or you have to be registered with the Department of Agriculture.
Right. You're only able to, without a license, to operate in the state of Kansas 6 days. After the 6th day, you are required to have a state license.
And that inspection will occur.
Well, you will, say if you're doing a festival in Kansas and you're only going to operate 3 days, you will get a blitz inspection. Basically, you'll come out and make sure you're operating safely and have everything you need to operate. But we will document that particular inspection as your first operational inspection. So down the line, you come around and you said you're only going to do 6, and then we hear and then you're doing 7 and 8, then you're going to be required to pay at that on site.
So when Unified Government told me I could not operate in Kansas City, so I had a inspection. That's not mess with you. I can operate 5 times. The 6th time and 7th time I didn't get it.
You have to have an inspection.
Now, that's the state of Kansas requirement. The city of Kansas City, Kansas may have a different requirement that says you have to have a license through them. Again, just because you get a license from the Kansas Department of Ag doesn't mean that you can go to Overland Park and just start serving, because Overland Park has a permit process that you have to go through for that. And different jurisdictions have different requirements. We are trying to come up with a document that will list what the requirements are for each jurisdiction. So if you're in Lenexa one day and we tell you one thing and you say, I'm going to Overland Park next week for a festival, you would know or at least understand what their requirements are. Because some departments are or some cities are a little bit more restrictive than others. So that's why we couldn't make this all inclusive. So the application process, I don't think is real difficult. I do have well, I'll get to that here in a second. But also, we'll show you the Clay County. This is for Clay County Public Health. They require licenses and inspections. So again, we're just giving you the links. Those will be on the PowerPoint. If somebody wants a copy of this PowerPoint, when it's all said and done, I'll give you my business card. You can send me an email, and I will send you a PDF version of the PowerPoint so that you'll be able to see everything that we show here. Clay County, yeah, you guys want to?
Platte County.
All right, Platte County, got anything you want to add on?
Same thing, we require a local license as long, now, our jurisdiction does not include anything inside the city limits of Kansas City, so if you're operating in Platte County in the city limits of Kansas City, you'll need to go through them, but anything in Platte County, with the exception of Kansas City, Missouri, same thing, licensing applies and inspection applies for us.
Okay. Clear as mud? So basically, reach out to the county that you're going to be going to and make sure that, because that was something we weren't not able to put together as to what counties require what. I know for Johnson County, we rely on the Kansas Department of Agriculture, but Overland Park has their own health department that will check their food trucks also. Okay. Any other licensing agencies want to say anything or speak while we're on this section? All right, so check with your county, and then again, we're working to get this spreadsheet put together that shows you what each jurisdiction, would require if you want to go into their city. All right, this is what the Kansas application for food establishments. This is the one that they use. So when you go to their website, this is what they're going to have to do. All right. Vehicles. If you have a vehicle, whether it's a trailer or a motor type vehicle, you have to follow all DOT regulations, requirements, whatever DOT is requiring. You got to have the insurance, you got to have a license. Any inspections that DOT requires, you're going to have to do that, whether it's MoDOT or KDOT, you're going to have to do those things. We are not there to govern that. We are not there to regulate that. If you have insurance requirements, whatever their minimums are, you work that out with them. We're not getting in the middle of that business with you. So, and then if you have a fuel gas tank system, and that would be like the compressed natural gas vehicles. I don't know, do we have any people here that have a compressed natural gas run vehicle or an LP run vehicle? You do? Did you raise your hand? Oh, okay. I saw the angle of the picture. Because that's going to make this presentation go really fast because there's a bunch of stuff on that we won't have to go. So, all right, so as far as your vehicle is concerned, anything KDOT, MoDOT requirements for that, you deal with them on that. We are not there to be the KDOT, MoDOT police for. Mobile food truck preparation vehicles, fire protection. So the mobile food truck preparation vehicles is defined as they are equipped with appliances that produce smoke or grease-laden vapors, and they shall comply with this section of the code. And when I say this section, we're talking about section 319 of the International Fire Code. If somebody really wants a copy of that, you can go online, go to the international, just type in Google International Fire Code, and then there's a link that you can get to that allows you free access to see it. And then it's section 319 that will be quoted out here today. Permits. 319 covers the permits, and this is where each jurisdiction may or may not be different. Overland Park requires a permit for a food truck. Lenexa currently does not. Kansas City, Missouri requires a permit for a food truck. Shawnee?
We require a business license for a city clerk.
So, so there again, there's different things in different jurisdictions that we couldn't throw out there, but the code allows each jurisdiction to require business licenses or permits for this type of functionality. The fire code official is authorized to issue these permits. Like I said, check with the jurisdiction that you're going to be working out of to see if you have to have a permit for that city. And again, we put on there not to be confused with the business license, because some cities do require you have to have not only the food truck permit, but you may also have to have a business license to do business in that city. Cooking equipment. Cooking equipment that produces grease-laden vapors shall be provided with the kitchen hood exhaust system in accordance with this section, or section 607 of the International Fire Code. So this is the biggie that everybody was asking questions about. So this section is one that, we know that there are food trucks out there that don't currently are cooking products in their trucks that are heating up, rewarming, whatever the case may be, but they're creating smoke or grease-laden vapors, and they don't have a Type 1 hood system in their truck. This code came out, most of the cities have adopted it already. I think Overland Park's getting ready to, Kansas City, Missouri's getting ready to, Olathe just did, so they've adopted this section. Now, again, this is going to be jurisdictional. The majority of the fire marshals around the area said, because trucks that don't have a Type 1 hood in them currently, which is the extinguishing system, it'd be a hood with an extinguishing system in it. So it's going to put the fire out if there's a fire underneath your kitchen we are going to, you can call it grandpa or grandfather it, allow you until April 1st of 2021 to get that system into compliance. Because that is it's not a cheap thing. I know some people have just done it and told me some of the prices of what it cost, and it's not a cheap thing to put in. But, you know, in order to give you time to build up that reserve to take care of that, the majority of the fire departments in the area are going to allow you until April 1st of 2021 to comply with that requirement. Now, if you buy a new food truck between now and then, it has to comply. If you have a Type 1 hood system with the suppression built into it, it has to comply. It doesn't mean that you get by until then. It just means that anybody that doesn't have that, that's been doing that, will get it first. Any fire marshals at the top got anything to say about that? Anybody not going to honor that or look at that?
I'm not going to raise their hand in this.
Because a lot of times when we adopt these codes, our governing body says you're adopting this code or we are adopting this code. So me as a fire marshal, I can't just walk up and say, well, I'm not going to make you enforce that, because the mayor and the city council said, yes, I have to make you enforce that. So this is something that, you know, we're trying to work through with the food truck vendor. It's a reasonable,
It's a phased compliance.
So it gives you some time to get to where you need to be in order to do that.
But a lot of prices went up once you made this announcement this is going to change. A lot of the unsold and hood suppression system went up another 20%.
Tommy,
Because they knew they were
safety and the prices go up.
Well, they knew you guys were going to make us do it, so they said we're going to make a little bit more money. The thing is a little higher.
That's not our control.
Yeah, it's not something we can control. And when we buy a fire truck, we pay a heck of a lot more just because it's got the word fire in front of it. Okay, question, I had one over here and here, so.
Like I have a truck now, it's still in licensing and not selling for another 4 months. I'm required to have the system, the Angelo system installed prior to that.
Yeah, if the truck's not in service now and you're going to put it in service, then yes. Okay.
I got a stupid question. So some trucks just run crock pots. Are crock pots considered? They steam, but they don't do it at an amount that requires a hood.
So the way the code reads, and it's written right there, where if it's produces smoke or grease-laden vapors.
I've seen some run 10 crock pots before. I didn't know if that was the thing.
That's more of a steam.
Yeah. So the code tried to address what's the major fire hazard right now. And remember, this is the code's first stab at it. We said fuel fired appliances, deep fat fryers, those are going to be your main fire.
Yeah.
Crock pot, we don't see the, at this point, I don't think there's that much of a fire hazard to it. Now, if you're, using it, I guess, to fry stuff in their grease.
No, it's not. That's not related to me. I'm just curious where the line is actually drawn.
Yeah, I think the most hazardous, it's an ice cream truck. Where's the fire hazard?
Yep.
With that, but if they're using open flame, that's our main concern.
Yes.
One thing, make sure they understand that it's where the vehicle's licensed, the city is where don't have the inspection.
Yeah. So that's the other side of this. The intent, and we'll talk about that when we get to the sticker. But wherever you're licensed at, if your truck is an ANSI Z21, and it gives you a bunch of other stuff. And on the next page, we basically show you what this ANSI requirement is. If you have a food truck that you have mobile type appliances in it, to where you're moving them out of the way to clean it, and you have a gas line that's hooked up to it, you have to have that little cable in there that's going to keep the appliance from being pulled too far away from the wall to where it puts resistance or strain on this gas line and creates a gas leak. So most of the appliances that I've seen, at least in the commercial industry going in, they have that, or it comes with it, or there's an option to attach it to that.
There's only if they're mobile appliance system with a dog that pastures on them.
Yeah, if they're permanently secured in place, then that requirement doesn't play. So it's only if they're mobile. All right, cooking storage containers. So we're going to talk about two things here in the next few slides. We're going to talk about storage containers, and we're going to talk about storage tanks. Storage containers are anything that's less than 60 gallons. So if you're using oil or any type of grease-laden vapor, you know, whether it's for vat frying or any kind of oil, just make sure that your storage containers are properly secured while they're in the vehicle. You know, we don't want them sitting in that manner, secured or not. I think this was a picture that was actually taken by a local jurisdiction. It's just sitting in the corner, but it's not really secured. So when that truck's going down the highway and it makes a sharp turn, there is a potential for them to fall over. If they're in a cabinet, if they're somehow secured so that they can't just fall over and create a problem.
Cold or hot? Like cold?
This is for your storage. This would be the extra stuff that you have that's not in the vat at the time.
Even if it's cold?
Yeah, it's still fuel, so they want it secured either by nestling or...
No, I got it. I'm good.
So just have it secured so that, you know, you can put it in a cabinet, you can put it in put a bungee or something around it, something that it's not going to just fall over while you're driving down the road. So, all right, and then storage tanks. I don't know if we've got anybody here that's going to have a storage tank. Storage tanks are for storage of oils, basically, of more than 60 gallons. Does anybody carry a tank that holds more than 60 gallons on their truck?
This presentation got a lot smaller.
It did, yeah. So we figured, you know, Emerald, Agassi, or, you know, one of those guys are probably the only ones that would have a truck big enough to have that kind of storage on it. So we're not going to go into this then because I don't think anybody here has storage tanks. You've all got storage containers, which are less than 60-gallon type containers. But storage tanks would be something like this. Even though those are 55 gallons, I don't think anybody's carrying 55-gallon drums around on their truck. I hope. All right, and then the cooking oil storage system components is also addressed by 319.7.3, and this is basically for everything that you would use on the piping, the connections, the fittings, the valves, the tubes, the pumps. You know, if you're going to empty it, you're going to move it. Just make sure what you're using is designed for that purpose. Okay, we didn't have any good pictures of what it would of a food truck that would have some sort of an oil movement system. This is one that came out of a restaurant, obviously a vat type fryer, and this is, they just drain it into the big deal at the bottom and then they wheel it out and dispose of it that way. When you're moving your oil from your fryer to dispose of it or take it out, just make sure you're doing it in a safe manner and what you're using is designed for that. It's not something that you put together just to get oil out. It's not, you know, using a pump that's not intrinsically safe or something would be something you don't want to do. Again, the design criteria, whatever you're using, make sure it's designed for those pressures. If you're putting gas lines in your system, make sure the gas pipe that you're using is designed for what you're using as well. Tank venting, since nobody's going to have tanks in their trucks, we're not going to talk about this, but basically if you have more than 60 gallons and it's a big tank, there's got to be a venting process in the event that it overheats so that it releases pressure instead of becoming a time bomb. LP gas. How many people got LP gas tanks on their trucks? Does anybody know what you're limited to? Yeah, it says it right there. So if you've got 20-pound tanks, how many 20-pound tanks can you have on your truck? 10. I hope you don't have to have 10 of them there. I would hope you go to a bigger one. But again, 30-pound, you'd be allowed how many? 6. If you had 40 pounds, 5 of them, or if you did the 100-pound tanks, you would be allowed to have 2 of those on your truck. That is the maximum you can have at any given time. Whether it's full or empty, if you got 2 100-pounders on there and you say, well, this one's empty and this one's full, and I want to bring a third one on, we're going to look at that one as being full because we don't know what residuals left in there. Okay. LP tanks are addressed a little bit by the NFPA standard, NFPA 58. It talks about the construction of the tanks, how they're supposed to be designed. Again, these are stuff we just took off the internet. Make sure they have the proper protection on them. If you took a tank like this to a place to have it filled up and it wasn't, had the top, somebody mutilated the top a little bit or cut some of it away in order to make it fit in their food truck, they will not fill it for you. They should not fill it because it doesn't meet the damage protection requirement. Protection for the containers. When you mount these on the back of your trucks or in your trucks, however you're mounting these, make sure that they are protected. The code talks about when these are installed on vehicles, they have to be securely mounted and restrained to prevent any kind of movement. So what does restrain look like? We did go down to, it was your place there, and we looked at a bunch of food trucks. We had several fire marshals or fire departments went down there and we looked, and we saw tanks that were secured with bungee cords. And we saw tanks that were secured with straps. And some of the straps looked like they'd been on there 20 years. So I don't know how, I mean, I was afraid if you tighten it down anymore, it would snap it. We saw some that were, actually had cables or had bands going around them, and some that were in compartments. So, you know, there's a whole lot of different options out there for securing them, but they have to be secured properly and restrained from movement on the back of the truck. So as you're driving down the road, you doesn't keep moving and end up wearing a hole in it or creating another problem, falling off and bouncing down the highway.
So all those trucks you saw were in blanks?
For what? No, they weren't. And again, that's something that each jurisdiction is going to look at. A bungee cord is probably not the right thing to have on a food truck, especially driving down the highway. It needs to be something more permanent where it's going to secure it and keep any kind of movement. Protection for the piping. Again, this is a picture we saw off the internet. Basically, this piping is based on the picture is not protected, so it wouldn't be allowed. And this is for a truck that's got the tank secured underneath it. There was one truck that was at the facility that day we were there that had a tank underneath it, and we wouldn't have known there was a tank until somebody just happened to open up a little door and you saw the tank in there at that point in time. So proper identification is what we ask for. But you know, the piping and it's got to be protected to tampering, protected to impact damage. So you can't put the tank on the bumper and have the tank hang over the bumper by 4 inches. Whatever the bumper has to be beyond, or whatever the tank is setting on, like in the last picture, has to be past the outside edge of the tank. Does that make sense? So if somebody runs into the back of you, they're not hitting the tank directly, they're hitting the angle iron that's there.
Chief, have you seen the video of the food truck explosion in Philadelphia?
I think we're showing that one at the very end. Stole our thunder.
Sorry, brother. Sorry. A question on protection. Question on protection of piping. So I've got black iron pipe.
Okay.
How do you protect black iron pipe? Do I need to like put
inside the truck or outside the truck?
Mounted to like the side. I have an RV.
Okay.
That's converted, and it's got a factory RV fuel tank, LP tank.
Okay.
And then factory LP piping, the way they ran it for the DOT.
Right.
So it goes like around and it goes down the frame rails and.
So, you know, when it says, back here it talked about, you know, mounted and restrained, it's got to be secured. So if you've got black iron pipe and you put a brace every, I don't remember what the black iron pipe requirement is, but it's every so many feet depending on how big the pipe is. If you've got it properly secured to where it can't move, it's not going to be moving, that's what we're looking at.
Well, I didn't change any of it, so
how
the manufacturer got DOT.
Jiggle it. If it had a lot of movement to it, it's probably not secure, but you know, you jerk on it, it doesn't really move. I think it's
if we look at your black iron pipe and we see a shiny spot right where a connection is because it's been rubbing, so you know, that would be something we'd probably say get it secured. You know, but we want it to be, you know, the damage from vibration. So as you're driving down the highway, I mean, these things are probably just as safe as can be when you're actually at the event, but when you drive from event A to event B, and that 30, 40 miles in between and the vibration that's happening over and over and over every time you move the truck, that's what we're trying to prevent the problems from happening. So if you have LP gas, you are required to have an LP gas alarm inside the vehicle. So this is what's going to notify you if there is an LP gas leak, if one of your lines start leaking or you have a bad connection or something, that's what's going to help you figure that out.
You might already have one if it's an RV. I mean, typically we find these are RV vehicles.
Actually, I had to disable mine because mine was a really old style that then operated a solenoid on the tank, and it was malfunctioning, alarming when it wasn't actually leaking, even if it was on, and shutting off the valve. And they don't make it anymore.
So,
But I know that story.
Did these plug in, like in a socket or?
these are typically, they're hardwired. So, and if you buy an RV for your family to go camping in, and you have LP tanks on it, you've got a refrigerator that's run off LP or gas stove, they always come with one of these. It's required by RV standards, but it's also required when you have LP that you're using for cooking. And then if you get into compressed natural gas, they have a methane one that's also required that we'll talk about here in a second. These run, we did do some Google searches. Amazon carries them for less than $100, and they mount on the wall. There's specifications as to it's got to be like so many inches off the floor if it's propane, because they want it to pick up and it will alarm you if there's a gas leak on the tree.
So my question would be, with the hood going and windows open, how sensitive is that? Because if you have airflow going through, because basically that hood is going to suck everything from the outside. That's the whole point of it. How strong are those LP alarms to actually protect?
It's a mute point.
If your hood system's running, it's probably going to pull some of that out, some of that LP gas that's leaking. But it's that time when you shut it all down and that leak continues to leak, and then you drive to the next event, and you come back the next time you turn on the lights, now you get an explosion because it went off at that time. All right, and then the compressed natural gas is what CNG systems are. This is something we talked about when we had the meeting, and nobody here raised their hand that they have a compressed natural gas system in their vehicle, but we do know that FedEx, UPS, several of the major shipping companies are using compressed natural gas as their first line of fuel now for their trucks. And at some point, I don't know when, it might be a year, it might be 20 years from now, UPS will be looking to get rid of those trucks, and when they start putting them out in the market available for sale, they've got the compressed natural gas tanks in it. That's what they drive down the highway on, and you could technically use those for not only driving the vehicle, but also supplying the appliances that you have inside your trailer. So there's a whole section of the code that talks specifically about that. And actually, the new code that's coming out in 2021 that I don't think anybody here is going to adopt, that's the only section of the food truck section that was actually changed that we've seen so far. So this is what a compressed natural gas cylinder container would look like in a vehicle. You might see it underneath the truck. Another one, anytime they're mounted underneath the truck, there's rules and requirements as to how low they can be, and they can't be lower than the lowest part of the drivetrain or the axle. This is one here that's actually being manufactured at a company for more than likely a UPS or one of those types of trucks. And this was one we just thought was an interesting one to put in the slideshow. We don't want you doing that. I'm sure that meat code that they're filling it and nobody's stopping.
Do it, Joe. Put it on the Tahoe. Put it on the Tahoe. So 24s.
Compressed natural gas containers have to meet the requirements of the NGV 2 cylinders. Basically, it just says how the cylinder has to be designed and put into the truck. Compressed natural gas also falls under NFPA 52. There's a whole NFPA standard just on compressed natural gas driven vehicles. And anytime you have compressed natural gas, there's a whole list of requirements as far as labels and signs that have to be put with it also. Protection of the piping systems for compressed natural gas, compressed natural gas and LPG. The piping, as we talked about just a little bit ago, we want it secured, properly secured, so that it's not having the regular wear and tear as it's driving down the road. We'll be looking at things like the piping on the inside, if there is any vibration damage to it that we can see. And those aren't things, we're not going to go in. If you have your initial inspection, that will probably be checked out a little more thorough than just somebody coming into Lenexa, for instance, and you've already got that sticker on it. We may just kind of peek behind it, look at it, and then move on pretty quick. So, and then compressed natural gas requires methane alarms in those types of vehicles. Maintenance, there's a whole section of the code in NFPA that talks about the different maintenance for the vehicle, or for the food preparation vehicles. There, we found a checklist out there that tells you have to do this every 6 months, this every 3 months. But some of the maintenance items, I think, won't necessarily always apply, especially if you're a food truck that's only working 3 months out of the year, and then you shut it down for the rest of the year. Why would you have to do maintenance on it in December when you know it's not going to be running in until May? We're not going to come out and make you have that hood cleaned or that suppression system checked if it's not going to be in service. This was the next one, and I'll let Corey take it from this one on there.
So what we look at is just like Chief Kimber talked about, is the fire code says your food truck needs to have this, and then it references part of the code that has to deal with structures. So like Wendy's, it says your food truck has to be maintained the same way as the hood system for Wendy's has to be maintained. We just didn't feel like that was the right thing. If you're during the winter time, you're not operating, you might only operate a couple times out of the year. So we really put that on the once a year. The cleaning, it really depends on what you use. If it's solid fuel, we might want to see that cleaned a little bit more. But to us, we consider that light use. You're not using it 24 hours a day. It's maybe a couple times a week, a couple hours a week. So we consider that light use. It really is once a year on that hood system cleaning. If a lot of times we saw that your hood system's only about this tall, you should be able to clean that yourselves. What the fire code says, it needs to be cleaned professionally. And that has to deal with back to a structure where you might have, a long hood system that goes through some turns where really you couldn't reach in there and clean it yourself. So we said you could clean it yourself. What we want is make sure someone's looking at the exhaust fan, make sure it's still in good shape. You don't have a lot of grease buildup on that. If you do, that might be the time when you call one of these gentlemen or whoever you choose to come take a look at it and see if it needs to be maintained. So that's kind of what we thought was the fair thing to do. We think the code will eventually straighten that up in later editions.
So we know everybody's cleaning their hood, which you can see when you're standing in the truck, because obviously somebody walking up to your window, you don't want them to see a bunch of grease running down the backside of unless you're a greasy burger place and you really think that's cool and sell more burgers, but you don't want them to see that. So when we pull those, the grates out and we look up there, as Lord was saying, that most of those are probably 8, 12 inches, and they go straight up, and you can see the whole thing, and you can see daylight above it most of the time. So if you can reach that, wipe it down, clean it out, and we don't walk in there and see that grease running out of it, or that stalactites of grease hanging down, then we're probably going to say you're good to go. But if there's any reason to doubt it because the motor or the fan assembly is totally caked in grease because that's something you haven't cleaned, then it may be you need to get a professional out here.
And we will say too, when you have your suppression system, it's different than the hood. So your suppression system is just to shut off the fuel, the power, and to discharge the agent. If for some reason, let's say Protection One's out there and they note on their inspection report heavy grease buildup in the exhaust fan, you come in to Shawnee for the inspection. If I see that noted, it has to be professionally cleaned at that point. Now I have a professional saying there's a danger, we have to act on that. But if you keep it clean and they don't notice any issues, I don't think we have to change that.
All right, exhaust hood cleaning stickers. Again, these are per the code are required to be there, but if you're doing it yourself, and that was the discussion we had about have some sort of documentation to say when you did it. I cleaned it on this day, and this is the last time that. If you have it professionally cleaned, obviously keep that documentation because you never want to have error on. Fire protection systems. Again, this goes back to the type 1 systems that have the extinguishing agents, extinguishing suppression systems built into them. The inspection, testing, and maintenance of those applies. If you're using it 365 days a year, then we're going to expect that to be inspected every 6 months by one of the folks that do that type of work. So if you're using it 3 months out of the year and it's parked in your driveway or your garage for the rest of the year, Again, if it's not out and about and we're not seeing it, the first time you come out, if you didn't have it done, we would flag you on it and have you get it taken care of.
The general, what Next is not doing this, but Kansas City is, Topeka is. How you want to handle the compliance engine part of this? Are we going to upload it like we do the kitchen system?
For Shawnee, I'm gonna say no. Because it's mobile, it's not really a structure where it's gonna stay there for a while. I don't see it, but I don't want to speak for other jurisdictions.
You guys using compliance engine?
Yes.
And what's your take on it?
We'll know by March for sure how we'll look like it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, this is new, because we're all trying to figure out what's the peak doing.
We were discussing that also, yeah. That is a good question. Ideally, we'd love to see it, but also understand the need behind it.
Really don't set it.
We're still in 15 as well.
So the compliance engine is you just went in, you guys, I don't use it, so you guys.
It's a third-party vendor that we use to help track all the hood suppression inspection reports, fire sprinkler reports, fire alarm reports. And what they do is, with your food truck, they would send you a notice 45 days before your inspection's due and says, "Dear sir, your inspection is due in 45 days." Then they'll send you another one if you don't act on it. If Keller or whoever doesn't upload that inspection report, they'll say your inspection is now due. And if you still don't do anything, then you're now past due. There's fees associated to it. They're going to start to email you and call you. And as the authority having jurisdiction, we can see all that. So they can see how many times they've emailed you, mailed you, called you. We can listen to the recording. That's typically when we come out and say, you need to get on it.
Now, if you have an inspector.
This is absolutely nuts. There's no fucking way Miami County is going to do that.
For these vendors to do that in that jurisdiction.
In order for a jurisdiction to use that service, you have to sign up with them. And Shawnee signed up, Overland Park's looking at it, North Kansas City, are you guys?
We've looked at it, but we're not currently signed up.
Okay, Kansas City is.
Leewood.
Yeah, Leewood is. You know, Lenexa is not. So the jurisdictions that are not, and as Keller was able to tell you, Lenexa is not part of it. Well, so they know when they do an inspection on Lenexa, they don't have to send the information to compliance engine. Or that they be at least 10 feet away from the vehicle that you're using. But we know people do have them mounted to their trailers. And the code does allow you, the NFPA standard does allow you to have them mounted to the trailer as long as the exhaust is being blown in an area that allows the exhaust to escape and not catch something else on fire. You guys had a fire in your jurisdiction because of an exhaust or a generator on a food truck?
So I saw a couple different ones that had like the exhaust was pointed back into the food truck and the grill, and it melted the grill on the truck. And the person didn't see an issue with that. And so we're not only concerned about, the customers, everything else, we're concerned about you guys. I don't want to show up and you guys, have some kind of medical emergency because of this.
Carbon monoxide poisoning,
yeah,
because they got in your vehicle and you didn't catch it. So again, generators are covered. This is a recommendation from the group. If you have them, use them smart. The recommendation or the NFPA talks about, you got to have a barrier around it. It's got to be protected from the public so that kids can't run up and get hurt, get burned. But again, it's a recommendation from the group. If we show up and you've got the generator blowing the exhaust right up against your tire, we're probably going to tell you to move it. This isn't a smart thing. Okay? But as far as the enforcement side of it, if it's a life safety concern where it's going to hurt or cause danger, we have the ability to tell you to do something different. But if you're using it sensibly, we don't have a whole lot of ground to stand on. Compressed gas cylinders, this is one that we can enforce. If you've got compressed gas cylinders, just like we talked about earlier, they have to be secured. We've got a couple pictures here. Trucks just got them sitting in the back of the trailer. This one was one that was found in a local jurisdiction. This is a really good one because this compressed gas cylinder, that little thing right next to it is a propane heater. And it's sitting right next to the gas propane. So, again, then you wonder why codes are written. People do some crazy things. Just make sure they're properly secured. Gas emergency shutoffs, again, it's an NFPA recommendation, or from our point of view, unless it's adopted by that jurisdiction, it's a recommendation. I know we had the discussion when we were up there about do we have to have a quarter turn valve to shut it off. Our recommendation would be yes, but I don't know where, it's not addressed in the fire code at this time. So.
Are you gonna, if the tanks are covered, you will make it mandatory, or you're talking about that it has to have, you have to have a note where it's at and say gas shut off.
The signage, but then
Signage.
Earlier we talked about the code, you have to be able to shut it off.
Yes.
So if
And the
you
top
have
of the
it in
tank is a
locked
shut off.
cabinet that I can't get into, then we're gonna say you gotta have some shut off, an emergency shut off that somebody can go to that doesn't take special knowledge to get into in order to make that thing stop flowing gas.
The big reason why we recommend this is you think, when we thought of food trucks, we thought of just your truck alone. When we started on some of these festivals, there's 20 food trucks lined up back to back. So if yours is on fire, guess where it's going to go? It's going to go boom, boom, boom down the line. Now we've got 20 food trucks on fire. So we want to wait for you to rapidly shut that fuel off. If the hood system should shut that fuel off, but just to protect our crews, we want to be able to shut that fuel off at its source quickly, get you away from the truck, and hopefully not have this thing spread to 20 other vehicles with our population, our public inside of that.
So this does address it. This IFGC is the International Fuel Gas Code, which is another code that we don't necessarily enforce. We're more in the fire side of it, but our building departments would enforce that in a home type situation. And I know in the IFGC, there's a section that talks about anytime you have a gas appliance, there has to be a shut off within so many feet of it. So in this case, in your food truck, the International Fuel Gas Code is going to say you've got to have a shut off within, and I can't remember if it's 5 feet or 10 feet of wherever the appliance is located. So
I think one thing helpful with these is the fact that on the Ansel systems, the valves are only listed to be inside.
Right.
And this gives firefighters an opportunity, or anybody else the opportunity, to shut that off outside of the facility. And even if it is maybe a leak previous to the cooking equipment, you don't have to discharge the system in order to shut it off.
And it's a faster turn off than the 7 turns for a propane tank, which is a quarter turn and you're done.
any questions on the gas shutoffs?
Question, I assume that means it needs to be outside the truck.
Well, for what you just said, the outside could be the tank for the fire department. But if you have the problem inside, is that quarter turn, and again, I'd have to look at the fuel gas code and see what the fuel gas code says about the distance from the appliances to where it is. I know it's no more than 10 feet, but again, because we had some places to put some things in outside that had to put in shut-offs. So I can't answer that question.
So this would be more like a main shutoff versus the isolation valves to each of your appliances.
Right. The flexible gas lines is covered by the International Fire Code. Again, we will be looking at the flexible gas lines that go from the tank to whatever the hard piping is inside the truck. So we don't want to see that flexible gas line going through the wall, through a sheet metal wall of the trailer. That should be hard pipe coming to that outside where the two connect. And then that flexible gas line has to be an approved line for that purpose, not something that, in some cases, I know on natural gas, compressed natural gas, you can't use copper. So, because it eats away at the gas, natural gas will eat away at the copper. So just make sure the gas lines that you're using to go from the tank to the hard pipe is an approved gas line for that purpose. And look at it. Like I said, the one we looked at, when we looked at all the food trucks that one day, there was more cracks in that than, I'm not sure how gas even stayed in that line. Extension cords, again, another one that we're going to look at. Extension cords, there's an exception in the code that talks about temporary use. Well, I think more than likely every one of your food truck situations are a temporary use. Just be wise about it. Don't run them through water puddles. Let's not have a conglomeration like that inside your truck because you're running 10 crock pots in order to keep your stuff hot. and just make sure that your connectors and stuff on the outside are approved and listed for that purpose. Exits and egress. This is a real common sense one. Make sure you can get out of your truck. You know, you're doing that big event, you're doing the North Kansas City Steak Saturday, or you're doing Shawnee's Parade Day, and you know you're going to have a big day, so you have all these extra boxes of cups and styrofoam cups and containers for serving. Just don't block your exits. Make sure you can get out of your truck. The last thing we want you to do is have to try and climb over something that's highly flammable as you're trying to get out of the truck that's on the street. Flammable liquids, for those that use generators, make sure you're storing your flammable liquids properly, whether you're traveling with it or you talk about the safety can.
Yeah, just make sure you have a safety can, like the red cans, that all the safety vapor release functions are still there. It's not just an open can. So we want some type of safety to it. And most of your modern cans have it. That's kind of a big thing. We don't want the vapor release right next to you.
Yeah, a lot of it's common sense, you know. So, and you know, we had to throw this picture in there because it talks about flammable liquids. Well, that, believe it or not, is grease or oil from something all over their floor, whether it was one of their containers that they were storing it in, or whether it came out of one of the vats when they were driving down the road. So there was enough grease on the floor to make that an ice skating rink on the inside. So just be wise about it. Staff training. Again, a recommendation. If you're going to hire somebody to be in your truck, make sure they know where that gas shutoff is. Make sure they know where the fire extinguisher is. If you have an ANSEL system or a system that's going to suppress the fire over your hood, make sure they know where that pole is if they have to activate it manually. You know, make sure they know how to shut the power off in the event that you have a problem. Just train your staff. Make sure that they understand where's the fire extinguisher and how to use it. You know, train your staff. This is your livelihood. And even though it may be your cousin, your brother, your sister, your relative, or somebody you hire off of the street to work your food truck, that's your livelihood. And train them so that they can take care of these quick emergencies until we get them.
Okay. Chief, if I can add to part of that training, make sure that they know to call 911 first, and then the owner of the food truck. We'd rather have our crews en route, find out we're not needed, than they do the calling tree and find out, you know, who's the owner of the truck. Now I'm going to call 911. Now it's a delayed response on our end. Just call 911. We'll come out there, make sure everything's safe first.
We don't charge you for showing up for something like that. Open vat fryers and open flames. This is a requirement, again, that's in NFPA. And if you have a fryer that's full of grease and you have something next to it like a charbroiler or something that has an open flame, there has to be a separation distance between the two. Or if you can't get that separation distance, there's a baffle plate that has to be put in. In this case, you know, 16 inches is the minimum requirement from the fryer to where the open flame device is. If you can't meet that, like in this case, there is an exception in the code that allows you to put an 8-inch baffle plate, something to keep that splatter, grease splatter from when you drop the fries down from hitting that flame to where you end up with a flash fire because of the grease splatter that's happening when you drop the fries. Again, the authority having jurisdiction in any jurisdiction that you go to that's not the one that did your initial inspection does have the right to look at your truck because you're doing business in their city. Make sure you understand what those requirements are. And again, we are trying to get a document put together to tell you what Blue Springs, what Lenexa, what Overland Park, what potentially Lawrence and everybody else what their requirements are, so you could at least go to that and say, well, we're going to Shawnee this weekend and this is what their requirements are, so we need to make sure we meet their requirements. Food truck stickers. So the Heart of America Fire Chiefs Council is going to purchase all the stickers for us, and they'll be given out to each jurisdiction, so each jurisdiction will have a bunch of these yellow stickers. I think we're still working on the numbers, but I think we talked to the Department of Ag the other day. Lenexa supposedly has 8 food trucks. Then I told them 3 of them that they didn't know we had, so we might have a few more. So we're going to get the stickers, we'll be able to issue the stickers, and we'll have a database maintaining the stickers so that we'll know who was inspected or who did your inspection. These stickers, size is 3x3. Okay. All right, the stickers will be about 3 inches by 3 inches, and they will be placed on your vehicle, passenger side windshield if it's a vehicle with a windshield, or they'll be placed on the passenger side panel for consistency, so that if Shawnee does it or I do it, I can walk up and I can see that sticker and know where it's at, and instead of having to walk all the way around your truck 3 times to figure out where Chief Sands decided to put it because he knew the guy was coming to the next one. So,
do you have to pay for the initial inspection at the fire department?
That is a great question. It depends on your jurisdiction. So, Kansas City, Missouri,
we will have a permit fee, $150.
For each year?
Why don't go to Missouri? Over.
So they're doing theirs in March is when they're going to do all theirs. So the county.
We're going to be doing, Kansas City will be doing it at the same time the health department will be inspecting your vehicles. So we're going to do it in conjunction with the health department.
So, I don't know. Is it going to be annually January to January, or are we going to go March? All right, and now this next part, we're going to kind of go through this a little bit quick. Words of wisdom as to why we suggest that you keep the separation of 10 feet and why we want to do certain things when you do these larger event type situations. So there is a whole section of the fire code that talks about large events, whether it's Running Man that they do down in Arizona, or it's the Snake Parade, or it's the Lenexa Food Truck Frenzy. There are requirements for large outdoor events. Arrowhead Stadium, this is definitely in play right now with the big events that are going on out there. We recommend 10 feet separation between all food trucks. Again, some jurisdictions may have it as a requirement because they've adopted something that allows that. And the reason we recommend it is, well, this one's not so much. This talks about the emergency vehicle access so that we can get our fire trucks in there if there is a fire in one of the food trucks. Because the last thing you want to do if you're this guy and this guy's trailer catches fire that doesn't have anything hooked up to it to pull it away from the situation is know that this guy just went to the bathroom and he's not going to be back for a while, and now you can't get your truck out of there. But you're waiting for the fire department to show up and they're only 3 to 6 minutes away, but they can't get to your truck because of the way the event was set up. So, look at that from your perspective of where are they putting me, and if something bad goes wrong, can I exit the area quickly to save my truck, or to keep my truck from being part of a problem that I had nothing to do with. Fire hydrants. Do not, everybody will enforce that one, do not park in front of a fire hydrant. We would love to come up to your truck and break out a window and shove a hose through it and pull it out the other side and hook it up to the hydrant and take pictures of it and show it all over social media because somebody didn't follow the rules and parked in front of a fire hydrant. So don't park in front of a fire hydrant. 15 feet away from the fire.